No idea.
All right, good evening, everyone. This meeting is the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Board of Directors regular meeting, Thursday, March 23rd, 6 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, I'll start with Director Saylor,
Here.
Weber,
Present.
Director Sheets is absent this evening, Director Gould,
Present.
Wood,
Here.
Right, Director Rice is absent. Director Jones,
Here.
Director Costa,
Here.
and President Ward.
Here, thank you. Next thing we're gonna do on the agenda is the pledge to our flag. Director Weber, can you lead us, please, in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Director. All right. Metro Cable announcement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is also webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays on Sunday, March 26th at 2 p.m. and Monday, March 27th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. The next thing is a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers, please?
There are no in-person speakers.
All
Or
right.
if you can allow our virtual attendees to unmute themselves.
Yes, attendees, you now have the ability to unmute yourself if there's anything you'd like to present to the board at this time. No response.
Okay. Oh, shit, yeah, that's good. Before we really get on with the agenda and consent items, I'd like to note that action item revision to positions and authorization document pad with Deputy Chief Bailey has been removed from the agenda. Tonight's agenda until further notice. All right, having said that, let's go to the consent agenda. These are reviewed. If those, I think you had a chance to look at the consent agenda. Can I entertain a motion? If you have questions, and a motion if there are no questions.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Motion by Director Saylor, second by Director Jones. Call the roll, please.
Director Saylor,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Costa,
Aye.
and Court.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, presentation items, we have Brad Swenman-Sen. USI, I apologize for USI Insurance Services, and that's Property and Casualty Insurance Program Marketing Update for Sacramento Metro Fire District.
Thank you and good evening, Board of Directors, Board Chair, Chief Haverty, Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration. I'd like to introduce to you this evening Brad Svenningson. He's our Property and Casualty Insurance Program Marketing Manager and Consultant, excuse me. And he'd like to give you an update of where we're at. I know we had conversations last year and we're moving forward with some possible changes in direction that will be coming to you in the future. So, welcome, Brad.
Am I in charge of this?
I'll help you out as much as I can, but we have.
Push that button.
And the lights.
Oh, all right, I got it. Okay, thanks for having me. Brad Svenningson. I'm with USI Insurance. Been there for, well, I guess I've been in the business 35 years. I've been there for 25. I've handled your insurance personally for 10 years. in our office for 23, and even before you were Sac Metro Fire. So a lot of history there. This goes on to talk a little bit more about our national presence. One of the largest in the United States. However, I'm in the Rancho Cordova office, which is about 2 miles from here on White Rock Road. So have a good feel for the community and able to visit your office and your folks frequently, a lot more frequently as of late, but that's good. Anyway, next page. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the last one, number 6, but we are involved with your aviation policy, your excess workers' comp policy, your fiduciary coverage, your storage tank liability, which is your gas and diesel tanks at the stations for pollution, your medical malpractice for your mobile integrated health program. And then what we're talking about tonight is your commercial insurance package, which is your auto, property, general liability, which includes your employment practices liability and errors and omission. So that commercial package is with a pool called SDRMA, and you've been with them 16 years, and they are excellent. The only reason we're having this conversation is just purely money. You couldn't ask for better service, claims process, everything. They make all of our jobs a lot easier. So anyway, they're covering your buildings, which are 162 million, your vehicles, 60 million. They provide 10 million of occurrence for your general liability and 50 million aggregate. And then 10 million per occurrence on auto with a 50 million aggregate, similar. And then a $2 million cyber liability coverage. Here's kind of a history of what you've paid over the last 5 years and your claims in the last 5 years. So you can see, like in years 17, 18, 18, 19, you were kind of a loser in the pool. I mean, claim wise, you were not profitable for the pool, but that has since changed. Basically a 50% loss ratio in the last 5 years, which is even going to get better, knock on wood, for this year's trending in a good position. So that just gives you an idea of what you're kind of subsidizing the pool the last 2 or 3 years, I feel, when you look at the claims. General factors in affecting insurance costs, and similar to what you may be feeling personally with auto and property, whether you can get property insurance if you live in the foothills or what have you. Anyway, the reinsurance market has really started to continue to contract, which is, those are the insurance companies insuring the insurance companies, if you will. We used to have 17 that would want to participate in California. Now we're down to about 10. So they don't want to put too much exposure. That's why the pricing has gone up. Claims used to settle for 5 million or 10 million are now settling for 30 million. Again, these are probably more cities that have police departments, nothing to do with you, but those same insurance companies are insuring you. So they're getting hit on that stuff. So you're actually getting hit with that as well. And then to some effect, the COVID-19, we're just still not sure how that's going to play out, and hopefully it stays the way it is, and it hasn't been drastic, but that's still kind of an asterisk on that. Kind of talked about this, handled your insurance. Well, I have for 10 years, but we have for much longer than that. During the last fiscal year, and we've been talking with FARA, which is the other pool, Fire Agencies Insurance Risk Authority. And we really have been talking for 3 years, had an official quote last year. I think I felt, and a few on the board, maybe a little bit rushed. That's why I kind of wanted to start this process now. And if there's some questions or concerns, we can try to hash them out in the next couple of months before we have to make a decision. The insurance process is frustrating. You probably want to get all your quotes in as early as possible, and it's like pulling teeth to get them in by May 15th. So the goal is to have everything to you by that second board meeting in May. Some of the comparisons of the two pools, kind of night and day in the sense that SDRMA more of a heterogeneous pool. I mean, you have everything from cemeteries to fire districts to irrigation districts, whereas FARA is just fire districts and authority. Kind of like that a little better in the sense that you kind of, your exposure and who your partners are as far as claim activity. So SDRMA is about 5 times bigger than FARA. So in that sense, they carry about the same proportion of insurance. 10 million aggregate versus SDRMA is a $50 million aggregate. All pools want you to have a 3-year commitment. We're okay with SDRMA because you've been with them long enough. They always allow you to opt out, but it got to opt back in by June 1st. FARA, they have a 3-year commitment. But last year, we were able to negotiate being able to opt out after 1 year. For some reason, we weren't happy with the claims or the service or the pricing, but they would do a 10% penalty, which based on last year's pricing, that wouldn't be a concern. Deductibles fairly similar, although SDRMA is a little bit lower deductible on comp and collision. Cyber liability, SDRMA's cyber policy is better. But I guess one of the important things to note that of all your claims that you've had in the last 10 years, they all would have been covered by FARA. They would have fit in their limits. They've never had to run out. They've never run out of limits. They've never had to buy extra insurance during the policy term. So from that made me feel a little bit better. So we started the process, getting quotes, and that type of thing. We're not there, but we're getting there to where we're going to get something back from the marketplace. I'm hoping to have. I'm sure I'll have FARA's quote before SDRMA's quote. Last year there were some concerns about the aggregate, the 50 million versus the 10 million. It is possible to get a separate policy just for Sac Metro Fire for 5 million or 10 million that would be in place in case something went horribly wrong with the pool. Then you had a little insurance umbrella there. And if we could still save $1 million, maybe that makes sense. Again, I don't get paid by either of the pools. It's transparent there. I don't, and again, SDRMA has been great. I don't have any problem there. It's just keeps going up. And both pools are indicating 15 to 25% increases this year. Could change, but that's what they're indicating. Oh, there we go. These questions don't have to be tonight. I mean, you can email HR and I'll get a response. I might not know the response and I'll have to get it to you, but anyway.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Swinigan?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So the insurance we have right now, you said that the insurance, the other company we're looking at, FARA, is, we've never gone over, they would have covered everything in the last 10 years.
Correct.
Okay. If we buy the umbrella policy with FARA, are
Yep.
we still saving money from the other company?
That is my, based on the pricing I got last year, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry, more?
sorry, Director Gould.
Yes, thank you.
You got you next. Director Gould.
Thank you. Really quickly, I heard you use a pretty telling comment. You said subsidizing the current pool. My question is, based on your professional opinion, is it time to get out of the current pool and move to a different one, particularly a pool that you've mentioned is being impacted significantly by our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. And so my question to you, is it time for us to do that, given what you have basically just described as with lower premiums, the competitor provides us a decent protection that doesn't undermine our ability to cover our insurance claims?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, apples and apples. I mean, I try to bring as many options to my insureds as possible. It's pretty tough to say that like Faro would be better than SDRMA, but is it worth spending an extra $1 million after we do everything? Is it really worth spending an extra $1 million with SDRMA? Now, again, SDRMA is based here in Sacramento. I call them and they pick up the phone. I ask them for something and I get it usually that day. Faro, I don't have experience working with them. I think part of the process in the next couple of months is we will probably have a conversation with a few of the larger members of FARA and just ask them about that. See if there's any frustrations and, vet that out.
Okay, thank you for that. One other question is, in the FARA option, do you know of any prerequisites that a organization must achieve in order to be considered part of the pool of FARA? My concern, I love the fact that it's specific to the fire service. My question is, do they take every fire service that's there, or do they have criteria that is mandated in order for them to be considered part of the pool?
Yeah, it's my understanding that if there's financial concerns, like the community is going bankrupt or stressed money-wise, or if their losses have been just crazy bad, I think they would probably take a look at that, whether or not you got into the pool. I know once you're into the pool, they usually are a little bit more lenient on that and try to make it work for you and maybe just charge you additional premium, et cetera. But I can get you a firm answer on that.
Yeah.
Email it to you. But
I'd like to know that as we move down this road and we consider another option, one that we haven't exercised in many, many years, is that we look at some of their best practices to determine who the fellow swimmers would be in our pool.
Yeah, fair enough.
I see you're getting some.
Right. Yeah. I was just mentioning the 3-year commitment and the fact that last year we were able to work out a deal that you could opt out after the first year with a 10% penalty. That is an important thing, because last thing you want to do is get into a pool with a teaser rate and then all of a sudden they won't put a max. They won't, they won't. We tried to negotiate that where we said, hey, how about then you just don't jack our rates by 20-25%. And they said, no, they had an insured that had a horrible year and they wanted that freedom to be able to do that. So.
Great.
Thank
Good, Director
you.
Booth?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next is
Thank you,
Director
Mr. Chair.
Jones.
Yes, sir, Brad. Now, does what you just said, does SDMR have a cap for increases on that annual basis?
They don't.
Well, we do it year to year.
Correct. Not during the year. They certainly don't, or they could if they were having a bad year and had to go out and buy extra coverage, then they would do an assessment, but that hasn't happened. And FARA has never had an assessment either.
Okay.
And they've been in business for 35 years. So it's pretty impressive.
Well, an assessment's one thing, and then the quote now is another. In the slideshow, were there, I don't recall seeing quotes, or is that going to be later?
Yeah, we won't get that till our goal is to have them by May 15th, and then to be able to present at the and that won't include the umbrella, because I can't get your excess 5 or 10 million. Not that you have to buy it. I can't get that till I get the actual quotes, because then they base the rates on that. So it'll take another 2 weeks. So I might have to come back first part of June, but at least that's kind of an extra deal. We
Yeah,
don't, I mean,
ballpark.
that's
We
not
had, you know,
urgent.
we had some numbers, but until it's in the
Right,
a formal court. All
yeah,
right, maybe these questions can't be answered tonight, but you could let us know.
sure.
I'm wondering what payouts has FARA done in the since 2017? You had payouts with SDMR specific to Metro. And I'm wondering what the total was for FARA group in a comparison with SDMRA.
You mean
All right.
payouts is on claims or?
Right, because you just said that the group that we're with has had a lot of claims. It's a much broader based agency pool. And so I'm wondering how those payouts from SDMR and RA, I'm sorry, I can't get all the letters
fine.
in there, how that compares to FARA.
Right, so the figures I had up there, those were your actual figures. Those were Sacramento Fire's actual claims and what the premiums you paid. I could ask FARA if they would give me some examples of what premiums they've collected over the last 5 years and what claims they've paid in the last 5 years. I think it's a fair question. I don't know if they'll answer it, but it's a fair question.
I'm just trying to figure out, it's a way to compare risk.
Yeah,
How much payouts they've done and proportionate to the agencies participating. So I'm just kind of curious, the big final number for each of those.
yeah,
And then you're going to get us a quote on the excess insurance?
yep.
Yes, sir. And then, and the premiums are still in discussion. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a
Yes,
question.
Director Sailors.
I'm noticing on all of these that the cybersecurity it's $1 million for FARA, it's 2 million for SDRMA, and it's 2 million on our account that we have now.
Currently, and there's no guarantee those limits will be in play for the renewal for either of the pools, because it's a really tough coverage right now. And it's,
Yes.
and SDRMA's coverage is better, but again, we could get a separate policy for Sacramento Fire. I mean, if FARA comes in and they're 1.2 million cheaper and we can buy some extra stuff and still save $750,000, maybe there's comfort there.
We can do an add-on policy
Yep.
for a little more cybersecurity
Yep.
insurance, because I just attended FDAC's conference last week. And FARA did give a presentation
Oh,
about their stuff.
oh, okay.
And it should be on SDRMA's, FDAC's website. All of the presentations that were at the conference
Mhm.
should be on FDAC's website soon. And we also got a presentation by a cyber securitist person.
Okay,
And he is recommending nowadays that our cybersecurity insurance be between 3 and 5 million,
oh, wow.
just because of what is happening out there in the world.
Right. Was he talking to the group or to you specifically? Not-
He was giving a presentation to the group
Yeah, okay.
about just what has changed just in the last 10 years
Right.
in the cybersecurity world.
In that instance, it's always best to have options. 'Cause
Yes.
Then the premium kind of like, hey, do we roll the dice and go with 3 million, or we spend, it all has different premium levels, so.
Exactly. And just sitting through his presentation and hearing how easy it is for the hackers to hack in.
Yeah.
And so that was my question, is if we could get an add-on. So
Yeah.
that's it. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Director. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Spinnigan.
You're welcome.
Hope I did get your name right.
That's fine.
I like to. I like to thank you. All right. All right, next on the presentation items is strategic plan standards of cover update, Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Thanks, President Clark. Good evening, and good evening, directors, Chief Haverty, and everybody here tonight. Good to see everybody in attendance. The intent of this presentation is to give you a brief overview on one specific area of the strategic plan that was adopted in 2020 by the board. Right here, this document that outlined those areas for the focus that we needed to have as an organization. We've also heard questions about how we as Metro Fire are addressing the current and future plans of organizational growth, organizational health, and issues about using transparent and data-based approaches as a tool in how we make decisions moving forward. So this presentation, sorry, just step on a cord here, is to go over one of those areas. It's a short presentation. It's intended to whet your appetite for what's coming up here down the road and a couple more meetings for our board workshop. So just a quick overview on the strategic plan. It was adopted, like I said, back in 2020 by the board of directors as a body. It followed a special board meeting in November of 2019, and it identified 5 key strategic areas for us as an organization to focus on over the 5-year period that the strategic plan covered. Those are the 5 areas there. The one that I'm going to be speaking about tonight is in red. It's the service delivery area of the strategy that was brought forward. And I'll talk some more about that here to give you some more depth in that regard. So under each specific initiative, there were projects and desired outcomes that were brought forward and developed to address each strategy. So under service delivery, and one of the 5 strategies, there was 4 different initiative areas that the board asked us to focus on. Those initiatives are listed there: best practices, administrative coordination, sustainability, and accreditation. There was also 3 project areas specific to this item that were brought forward from the board to focus on EMS, suppression allocation, and special operations. The standards of cover that we are currently working on, and not just me, I do want to say thank you to all of the staff that has been working on this project. It has taken a lot of hours to get to where we're at, and I'm looking forward to getting that project done to bring forth to you all. But that will address all 3 of those areas once it's done. One of the major changes that has come about within the strategic plan specific to the standards of cover is an update to NFPA 1710, which is the standard for the organization and deployment of fire suppression operations, emergency medical operations, and special operations to the public by career fire departments. That was updated in 2020 and established some ideas of standards to consider as we move forward in those areas that you all had identified back in 2019 to focus on. So that's good news. That gives us a starting point for best practices that is at that level, that national level. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. And then, as I said there at the bottom, all 4 initiatives are supported, but under the sustainability initiative specifically, I did want to point out that in that area, the plan asked us to move data analysis from a manual process to more of an automated system at multiple levels in the organization. I'm happy to report now at this point, over the last few years, and we've been able to do a much better job at that. We've taken a number of different data points in. We've also cleaned up a lot of data that have happened that have been used in the past and made it more reliable and very succinct in what we're looking for. And so that's been a very big plus to us to move into this process of this current standards of cover update. So why do we need a standards of cover document? The idea behind it is we're going to be able to utilize a sustainable, reproducible, data-driven process to address the strategic plan outcomes that you all identified. Some of the outcomes that you asked for specifically were a comprehensive analysis of current and future coverage, articulated plan for current and future activities and resources. And this plan will includes plans for both equipment and members and how we're going to utilize those out in the field moving forward. It will provide us a tool to make those objective decisions that are using the data and the things that are out there that weren't out there ever before to make those determinations moving forward. So that's some good news. So the history, why is this strategic plan, or I'm sorry, the standards of cover process different than last time? Metro Fire as an organization since 2000 has had 3 other standards of cover documents completed. One very early in our existence, and then one late 2000s, and then one in the last decade. 2 of those previous documents were completed utilizing outside consultants. I'm very happy to report, as I alluded to earlier, that due to the expertise in the organization and our commitment to being able to bring data processes forward and analysis, again, like I put up there, combining multiple data sources, we are now able to complete the collection and analysis in-house. The good news with that is that moving forward as an organization, we'll be able to continue to take that data in using near real-time information from what we are doing out in the field to adjust our processes and make sure that we're actually still doing exactly what we had set out to do, which was the effective and efficient deployment of service throughout the community, again, to bring that value that we're looking for to add to the community, and then make those adjustments as needed, like I said, almost in real time. That's really exciting, and that's something that we've never had before as an organization. So I named a few of those different data sources we're using. We're bringing in CAD, ImageTrend, our RMS system, GIS, our community risk analysis that was completed, and combining all of those into a process that will very succinctly identify where we're looking good and where we need to take some actions to improve our service to address that emergency response piece of the organization. And then that will also bleed over into some of the other areas of the strategic plan, as well as some of the questions about as we grow in the service delivery of the operations and response area, how that impacts our growth and professional staff, and bringing those things into alignment and a process that is, like I said, it's sustainable, it's reproducible, and it's really transparent. It's the same. So again, I think it's also important to recognize we do still have some systems in place, whether they're under our control or not, is subject to, interpretation of where they come from. I think CAD is one example where we know we have something that's old that needs to be replaced. We're a party to that, but it's not one of ours that we can just turn the switch and say, we're going to do this and make a change. We're at the liberty of the rest of the county, as well as the person that's the vendor that's putting that together. So what will I keep saying that, sorry, the standards of cover tell us? It's going to identify those current areas of strength, like I mentioned. Really, we hear a lot about what goes into us making a determination on where we need to put in an ambulance, or where do we need to put a truck company, or where do we need to put in an engine company. A lot of times you hear about call volume. Because of how this process is being built, I'm happy to say that we're actually digging deeper than that. We're actually looking at call volume, which is one part of the pie. It's a huge part, don't get me wrong. There's calls, and there's very busy companies out there that run numbers of calls. The other two things that we're working through is the time on task, which is how long you're spending on an emergency dealing with it. And then drilling down even further than that into the specific unit type of time on task. An engine company will have a certain amount of time on task standard, but a medic company would have a different time on task because of the transport and the completion of the incident that's tied to that specific resource for what it's being used for. So the numbers and where the best practices are a little bit different depending on which apparatus type you're talking about. So there's that as a second one. And then the third bullet point up there is reliability. The reliability piece the concept is been accepted and addresses how often is the first responder unit or other type unit available for a call in their area. So if you're in an engine company like 42s that just has a fire engine, what percentage of the time are they available for a call? Now, there's industry best practices and standards that we're looking at to adopt as an organization. But really what we're looking to get to, if you were just to take that one snapshot in time, is 90%, 0.9 is what you want to be at. So we can look at that number, associate that with how long that they're on an incident as a company, and then how many calls they have, and say, how are we doing? Is that company available for a call to the best standard that we're looking for? And if not, how do we make that better? And as an example, in 24's area, where we can put in a squad, if the squad wasn't there, engine 42 would run a call in 24's, which takes their reliability number down. Does that make sense? So there's some implications of how the surrounding first due areas work and what that number ends up being. So like I said, it's pretty exciting because the data is real time to be able to say it's working or it's not working. I'm happy to report that squad data, as we've had it in service now for a number of months, is really starting to come in and paint a good picture about the impact it's having. So that's some good news. Make sure. Talk about that bullet there at the bottom. Gives us a starting point to determine where we need to move, adjust the type, and plan for additional resources. So the effective response force concept. As a district, back in 2009, the board as a body adopted a concept that addressed urban, suburban, rural responses for a residential structure fire, and that's it. That's what we have. We have turnout time, we have dispatch time, that's our effective response force data. This new standards of cover document will actually go into, we're looking at 4 different response time. We're adding metropolitan, which is above 10,000 people per square mile, which we have a lot of those. And then we're also drilling down in not just fire, but fire, medical, hazmat, and special operations responses. And then even further than that, identifying key performance measures within those to high, medium, and low risk categories. So we're going from a very small set of standards that we're using as a district to an incredible amount of data to really show how are we doing in these 4 identified areas of fire, EMS, hazmat, and special ops to meet the specific call type standard. A lot of information. I don't want to get too far down the weeds because I'm going to take away from the strategic plan meeting that we're going to have in May, but it's pretty exciting to know that that's out there and that because of our folks that are here, we're able to work through that. I'll tell you that just as a little bit of a story, when our folks are dealing with those things, they start the process overnight to start doing all the data. It literally runs all night because it's looking at so much stuff to come up with one of those areas of risk for one of those call types to identify what that number is. So it's a huge amount of data. So that's a good news. That's good news. So, sorry, I said I was going to be short. Now I'm excited and I'm talking long. So what's next? So the results of the standard of cover are going to contribute to the understanding of our human and capital needs that we've heard loud and clear from you as a body, that we need to have a good plan. We have a good plan and it's coming very soon. We're right on the cusp of being able to do that for now and in the future. We're combining the service delivery standards of cover project with the other 4 areas. And I didn't hold this up here. And I don't want to get too far down into it. This has multiple areas. I know Director Gould, I know you're out there in the land. This is a graphic that shows the different areas within the strategic plan and how they all tie together as a big picture to come out on the other end to be a responsible, sustainable, fiscally resilient plan for us as a district moving forward to address all of those areas. So also very exciting, very busy. We'll talk more about that in the next few months. Again, the outcome is organizational sustainability and increased value to the community, which is why we exist. What value are we bringing to you and how are we addressing it and how do we categorize and prioritize those things? And then that last point there about we're going to dive into this some more for numbers of hours coming up to give you and answer a bunch of questions to give you a little bit more behind the curtains on what everything that has been going on to get to this point at the planning workshop. So we'll tell you that. For now, thank you for your time. I know I've heard questions before. What can we as a board do for you? I've heard that a few times. And so before you ask that, what I will ask you to do as we come forward is we're going to come back to you in a short amount of time to approve those increased key performance measures like we talked about. We'll do a big presentation on them. You'll hear about them so that we can adopt those, as well as those new standards over and above the urban, suburban, and rural, and fire response with dispatch and turnout times. So there'll be a whole bunch more deep dive into the data to increase our current policy about how we deploy it, which is 1 page. I fully anticipate this policy to grow, probably exponentially is not too strong of a word on to address all those things. So that's it for my presentation. I probably went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I get excited about it because of all the work that's gone into it. Incredible job by staff so far. The outcomes are already showing some very critical areas we need to address, but also where we're doing a good job. So
All right,
that's the end of my presentation.
great job, Chief. Director Gould has a question.
Chief Mitchell, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Chief Mitchell, thank you very much for that short presentation. You've been around long enough to remember 1,000 years ago when the dinosaurs were on the earth, we used to have something called hospital diversion. I know that when I was a much younger man, I did a master's thesis on the impact that diversion had on our EMS response system. And in your presentation, I did not see anything relative to the same behavior basically that's occurring today, albeit a little different, and that's wall time. I hope that as we look at and develop these different plans that you've suggested on the standard of coverage, I hope that we figure out a way to ebb and flow based on conditions that our agency has very little to no control over, because I see an awful lot of really wonderful work being done by your team. And it can all be basically trashed down if all of a sudden those that receive our patients decide that the wall time will exceed 6, 8, 10 hours. So I know you've got a lot of bright people on there, but I was shocked, like I said 30 years ago, when I looked at this very issue and found that there was statistically significant impact on our system. And we had very little control over the diversion piece, up into a point where agencies were paying fines because of response times that we had very little control over. So I didn't see it in your report, but I just want to make sure that as we go down this road of standard of coverage, one of the major impacts to our standard of coverage is the idea that we can't simply drive a patient up, tell them to get out and drive away. And I hope that you keep that at the very forefront of how we plan our strategies. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Chief Mitchell, I'm sure you may have some comment.
Yeah, I will, Director Blue. I appreciate the question. And then I have a whole nother packet, which we could talk a lot about wall times and the round robin, the level 2 diversion that you're referring to from way back when, and how the hospitals could close their doors when they got to a certain point, and that went away. Obviously, APOT has continued to grow for us. We've got some good metrics on that as well. It's a whole, like I said, a whole nother slice of the pie, if you will. But it is part of what we're talking about. And when I mentioned the time on task standard with the ambulances, that in this side of the house, that's where we'll look at what's going on there. But in addition to that, some of those other actions to be able to impact that are constantly being worked on for how we're addressing it, working with the hospitals. I will tell you that we have taken a lot of action over the last couple of years as a district and as a region to do what we can as a provider to address it. The challenge that you all are aware of and why we're at the state level now with legislation with such things as AB 40 sponsored by Assemblymember Rodriguez and some of those things to help us legislate to hold those emergency departments accountable to a standard that really hasn't been there before, to get that drain unplugged and to be able to really address what's been around for 50 years on how we run EMS and back to the Johnny and Roy days and things like that with no changes. We really need to do something different there, and we are working hard on that as well.
All right. Next question. Director Jones.
I agree with what Director Gould just said, and I think that this, the time on task section of this data retrieval, there have been more than one question that I've had that can be answered on this time on task. And I think this data will be very, very supportive of any type of argument with capital A we want to make within this wall time situation. This is, that will only enhance our position in working with all this wide variety of agencies to show the righteous need to get some stuff done. So I'm delighted to hear time on task, and I have a couple questions that have been floating around for a few years, and I'll get them to you. And you just punch it overnight and let me know.
You're spinning up right now in the background. So yes, it is. It's an exciting time, and I will say this: the exciting thing, more exciting things, I keep saying exciting, but about this is that we own the process. We own the data, and we now have the ability in-house to run those and to really make it ours and to change it and adapt it. It's already been effective to the point of what we've done with the wall time percentages. The chief and some of the other staff have been meeting with the hospitals, and we already have that data available to say, here it is, it's black and white. I will say there's some argument about that from the other side of the table, which is interesting, but we've got some good talking points already, and we'll continue to move forward on addressing it because it is a critical issue for our members and what they're out there to do and support the public and provide the service.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Chief. Very good report.
Chief.
Thank you. Presentation.
Very good. All right, next we go to reports, President's report. I have nothing to report. Fire Chief's report, Air Chief Evans.
Thank you, President, Clark, and board members and members of our staff and community. I'd like to announce that we have a supervising inspector promotional examination announcement came out today. Final filing date is April 21st at 4 p.m. We have a career development opportunity in the mobile integrated health program day positions for firefighter, paramedic, and also paramedic. Final filing date for that is March 31st, also at 4 p.m. And as a result of the classification study undertaken by our HR department and Chief Bailey, we're congratulating Courtney Moore for her promotion to purchasing agent and Emily Brown for her promotion to payroll specialist. Both were effective on March 9th. Our EMS chief and Chief Perriman and myself, we've had 4 meetings that Chief Mitchell referred to with the hospital administrators, really to accomplish just some introductions and to repair some relationships between this agency and them, as well as to present them our ideas about relieving the wall time, the APOT, and to demonstrate to them the effectiveness that you heard about a couple of weeks ago on our mobile integrated health program. And we've been really quite warmly received by UC Davis Medical Center and Sutter Roseville and Kaiser Roseville. And yesterday we continued with the reframing organization classes, studying the chapters on a structural frame. And Chief House joined me in teaching yesterday. I appreciate his efforts. And we have 3 deliveries of those materials per month. This concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions of the chief? His reports. All right. Thank you. So next we go to operations report, Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Didn't go far, but I've talked a lot, and I'm going to turn it over tonight to our Battalion Chief of Special Operations, Grant Russell. We've heard from operations areas in EMS, training, health and safety, and staffing. Chief Russell is another arm or part of our branch of operations to talk about what he does for special operations. So.
Good evening, directors, Chief Grant Russell, Battalion Chief Special Operations. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what special operations encompasses tonight. So special operations is the umbrella. There's 12 separate programs currently underneath the special operations umbrella, starting with our air operations program, our unmanned aerial vehicle program, our CERT program, technical rescue, hazmat, water rescue and boat, TEMS, dozer, ARF, foam ops and tank farm, the Sacramento Regional Incident Management Team, and the wildland team. So each of these programs currently has a separate program manager at the captain rank, and that person manages the budget and the purchasing and the training plans within those programs. And my job is to support them in that process, educate them, mentor them, and assist them where needed, and set them up to be successful in managing and planning those programs and setting them up for succession and moving forward. So I'm just going to give you some brief program highlights of what some of these programs have accomplished or what they've been doing so far this year. I'm going to start off with our Air Ops program. So our Air Ops program this year has been very, very busy in a time of year that they're normally supposed to be down, quiet, and in maintenance. And they've been flying lots and lots of hours. So last week, our Air Operations program was stood up again for 48 hours on an OAS preposition order. So it's actually very exciting that we're able to stand our aviation program up and have 24-hour staffing. They're capable to fly at night. And the beginning of January, the beginning of this year, they made some very high profile, very successful rescues and made a big difference. So going forward, they're getting ready next month to start our annual third-party hoist training, which is what over the years that investment has paid off this last year. So very exciting, looking forward to that. Our dozer program is now starting its ramp up phase. So we've just brought on 3 new apprentice operators. Those 3 apprentices completed their Class A driver's training and received their Class A driver's licenses at the end of last month, and will now start their advanced training and start their dozer operations. Unfortunately, their annual safety, interagency safety training that they were scheduled to be at Camp Pendleton this week was canceled. Primarily because dozers and mud are a bad combination. They don't mix real well. So unfortunately, that training was canceled. Our hazmat team recently completed their Cal OES inspection and renewal of their Type 1 hazmat team status. So they're again typed as a Type 1 hazmat team with Cal OES. Last week, we completed our annual ARF live fire training out at McClellan with our third-party vendor, all 3 shifts. Completed live fire training for ARF for the next calendar year. And that's just part of their annual competency trainings out there. Water rescue annual jet boat refresher training is starting up. We'll be starting up next month. And that's getting our boat operators that don't normally work on the boat annual refresher training. And this year it's going to be kind of crucial because the river channels will have changed due to weather. And we really don't know what the river flow conditions are going to be. They've been high pretty much all since the first of the year. So that's going to be some important recurrent training for our water rescue folks. The rescue team, which grew with the recent contract, they're developing and implementing their quarterly core competency drills, and those will begin next month to establish the base competencies and to focus on the training to the folks that are not normally assigned to the heavy rescue company. They could be moved in there on a callback or cover a vacancy from someone else. And again, the hazmat quarterly drills are currently doing the same thing. And our CERT team has been very active this year. And during the January storm, the CERT team had 307 volunteer hours responding to incidents and supporting our frontline units, making them available to go respond to additional emergencies while they stood by for SMUD. There's also a CERT basic class that's currently in progress with hopefully 12 new members. A little lower than what we're hoping for, but we're still trying to recover from COVID and trying to get people back into that volunteer mindset. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions of you have one? Okay, Director.
Where does our, thank you, sir. Where does our boat inventory sit? As more specifically with the ribs?
So we currently have 3 jet boats in our inventory. So 2 of the new ones that are at station 62 and 65 is our first out. We have a smaller reserve jet boat. And then we have 8 John boats that are 4 in 2 separate trailers at 62 and 65. We're currently coming up with a plan to address the missing piece in our, so what I would say our water rescue quiver, which is that medium flow, low flow, which is not high enough for the jet boats, but the water's too swift for the John boats, and that's the inflatable rigid or the inflatable rescue boats. And we're currently trying to come up with a plan to close that gap.
Very good. Thank you.
And additionally, if there's any program that you want more in-depth information on, I am happy to come back and provide a presentation and bring the program manager for those programs.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, you have
No,
another
it's all,
question.
it's all good. Thank you, Chief Russell. Appreciate this. And I'll be giving you a call about some like getting for community purposes. Want to get information out for the CERT, the next CERT class, so that we can drum up some participants for you. I was a little late on the draw for the one that's happening now, but with some preparation, and as you said, as we expand from COVID, I have a lot of community opportunities to share that opportunity to be a CERT member. And I'd like to work closely with you to make sure we get all that out to all these various neighborhoods.
Absolutely. And we have a plan for the next one to work a lot more closely with our PIO, Parker Wilborn, to get a wider message out.
Well, like you said, we're coming out of COVID. We're just a few steps out of the cave. We're trying to, recoup from the COVID coma is what I call it, and get back into the swing of things and get energy flowing again. So I appreciate your attention to all these programs.
Thank you.
Excellent point. Yeah. Any other question? Okay, Thank you, Chief.
He started a year ago. He had really brown hair. He's got 12 program managers.
You've been there a year. Okay, well,
That's all
we
right.
got you now.
That's all right. Much appreciated. All right. Next, we got the administrative report. Deputy Chief Bailey.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Board Chair, Chief Haverty, colleagues. Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration. Couple of short updates for you from Community Relations Division. Our awards gala will be held at Arden Hills Resort Thursday, March 30th, 2023. Doors open at 6 p.m. Event starts at 7. I have been voluntold that I will be your MC, so I apologize now ahead of time, but I look forward to seeing you there. A letter went out to all school districts advising them of super special fire safety videos accessible through our website. They are working on behind the badge videos for finance and community risk reduction, planning for a media press event April 19th, uniting national, state, and local officials addressing the efforts to reduce fire problems across our nation. This is going to be held. Parker Wilburn will be involved in this, as well as operations. Lori Moore from our United States Fire Administration, Ed Kelly from the IAFF will be here in town with the OES as well. So unfortunately, we won't be here because cap to cap, but I'm sure there's others that will fill in our place for us. Chief Haverty, you will be in town. Yeah. Planning for fire camp scheduled July 11th through the 14th. And our next station dedication at Fire Station 63 is scheduled for May 11th. They're also working on fireworks safety task force to develop messaging for our fireworks campaign this year. I'm happy to say that the RFP has been sent over to General Counsel Lavra for review. This is in regard to the workers' compensation RFP that currently went out. Let's see, HR, Human Resources, we have the captain promotional recruitment closes May 5th. Battalion Chief promotional recruitment closes May 26th. Board clerk interviews were held today and tomorrow. We currently have 22 paramedics that will be moving forward in backgrounds for the Metro Medic program. 28 were invited after interviews. We've had 6 decline moving forward in the process. The good news is we had a list of 17 EMTs on a separate list. 3 of those EMTs have now become licensed paramedics. So they will move over to the paramedic. They've already gone through backgrounds. They're ready to be hired. They'll move over to the paramedic list. So that's good news. Working on prelim budget 23-24. And also for finance, they're working on an RFP this week for external audit services. Once completed, they'll be bringing to the board for recommendation of approval. And that is the end of my report.
All right, excellent. Any questions, folks? Chief Bailey? No. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Next up, Sports Services Report, Deputy Chief Wagner.
Good evening, President Clark, Board of Directors, Fire Chief Haverty, Tyler Wagner, Deputy Chief of Support Services. And the showcase continues. We're getting close. We have one division left after tonight. It will be IT, but for tonight, we'll be highlighting the Metro Fire Community Risk Reduction Division, previously known as Fire Prevention. Your Community Risk Reduction team has an authorized staff of 29 members. They do fire investigations, fire inspections, plan review, code enforcement, address weed abatement type of issues throughout our district, and many, many, many other things. For an agency covering over 359 square miles, as you can imagine, this division is incredibly busy. They handled over 21,000 inspections and plan reviews last year, 21,000. The person responsible for leading this high-performing team is Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal Barbie Law. Chief Law is one of the most intelligent people I've ever worked with. Her work ethic is second to none, and it is a pleasure that I'm able to work with her each day, and it's a pleasure that I introduced her to you this evening, Chief Law.
So, good evening, directors. Thank you for the introduction, Chief Wagaman. I have with me tonight Deputy Fire Marshal Amy Nyren, and we are going to take a team approach to explaining a little bit of what we do in the Community Risk Reduction Division every day. So community risk reduction is responsible for protecting the public through coordinated efforts in fire prevention, code enforcement, fire protection engineering, fire and life safety education. The fire and life safety education piece, we work closely with our community relations folks and Captain Wilborn on that. And the fire investigation unit is also underneath us as well. One thing that I want to highlight when we talk about our protecting the public and coordinated efforts in fire prevention, that's not only protecting the public, that's also protecting our firefighters on the line every day. One of the functions of the fire code is to take into account firefighter safety when we're out there having to deal with issues and hopefully preventing fires in the first place so our firefighters aren't exposed to those carcinogens and contaminants and those type of things. So just wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the goals that we, Amy and I and our team are working on for 2023 in the division. I know you heard from Supervising Investigator Rogers last week. I was on vacation, but I was listening. And so I did want to highlight that one of our goals is stabilizing the staffing levels in the FIU and being able to support the growth in call volume and the workload that we've experienced in that division. We're also working on getting to full inspector staffing levels. We brought on 2 new fire inspector 1s at the end of last year, and we need 2 additional inspector 1s to get to our fully staffed bit on the pad right now. So we're really thankful for human resources and the work that they've been doing to expedite getting our inspectors through background progress so we can get them into training. Another item that I would like to work on is improving some of the communication and coordination with our operations group. And what I mean by that is that we have identified, as I came into this new role, I've been doing a lot of data analysis and getting my feet underneath me in the division and identifying what some of the needs are. And what we've noticed is that there's probably some training needs that we could address for our frontline company officers and our firefighters when it comes to fire investigation, doing cause and origin, and some other things that I think we've gotten away from over the years, at least since I've been a firefighter. So that's one of the areas that we would like to focus on. We are nearly done with our fee study that we've been working on for over a year now before I came into the division. And with that, we'll be able to bring to you our recommendations for revising our fee schedule. That has not been updated since 2016. And obviously, we all know the cost of doing business and providing the services to the community has changed over the years. And so we need to look at recovering some of those costs so that we can support enhancing service in the community on the risk reduction side. Very important for me is succession planning. I really have been putting a lot of time and energy with Amy and our training supervising inspector into supporting training and education plans for all of our inspectors and taking a forward thinking process years down the road. What skill sets do we need to have people prepared to step into new roles? Because obviously all of us are not going to be here forever. And when we move on, we need to have people well prepared to take over in our roles. So along with succession planning, it's not enough just to say that we're going to have a plan, but we need to be able to support that with the resources to make it happen. Amy and Angela have done a phenomenal job of working with partnerships to identify training opportunities that are either low cost or no cost to us because we're sharing facilities and educational opportunities. So that is fantastic. Finally, when it comes to the community risk assessment that we had done before, I have spent a lot of time, as Chief Mitchell mentioned, on looking at our data, cleaning up our data, and making sure that we really have a solid community risk assessment so that we are putting our efforts where they need to be in regards to deploying assets and educational tools and stuff, and really making sure we're looking at the right risk. So with that has been working on the NFIRS data quality. It's unfortunate for the people that have been injured that have come into the division to help with some of this data scrubbing. What they did before they started was go through some basic NFIRS training, which I think would be beneficial for all of our officers. So we're entering the right information on the front end so we can get out accurate information on the back end and come up with plans. So that will be another area that we can work with operations in the future this year to coordinate those efforts a little bit better. From a staffing standpoint, just really quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Amy and she's going to dive into a little more of the technical aspects of what we do in CRRD. So currently we have obviously myself and Amy. We have 3 supervising inspectors and they are broken up into 3 different operational areas covering code enforcement, new construction, and training. Currently, we have 11 fire inspector positions funded or filled, excuse me. We're funded for 13 and we're just about there. So right now we have 7 inspector 2s. Inspector 2s are able to do new construction, plan review, as well as our mandatory inspections that Amy covered for you a few weeks ago with our SB 1205 update. Right now we have 2 inspector 1s and they are focused on code enforcement and also those mandate inspections. And then our inspector 1s in training are working on the same type of activities. And that's what our new inspector 1s will do when we get them in and start training with them. We have 3 plan intake specialists. So those folks are taking in new construction and tenant improvement plans from the community on a daily basis and then moving those forward for the inspectors. And then I could not operate without our admin specialist, Lisa Gates, and our 3 office technicians up at the front, Chelsea and Nanette and Kendra, who are the frontline fielding calls from your community every day and getting them the right answers or forwarding them to a person that can help them. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy now.
So since you guys have already seen the fire investigations unit, I'm not going to touch on them today. I'm going to focus on the 3 areas that you saw initially. So code enforcement. Just a brief update. We did talk about the state mandated inspections. Those are the unfunded mandates that we are required by the state. That's the SB 1205 that we talked about. They also conduct business inspections, re-inspections, and a multitude of complaints. So last year, they had 2,899 just initial inspections, 4,527 re-inspections, and 710 complaints. So that's just over 8,000 inspections just for our code enforcement team. Approximately on average, 5 inspectors did that work.
And where do our complaints come from?
Our complaints can come from the engine companies, they can come from the general public, they could come from internal and external customers. So anybody can call in and with the problems that they're seeing out in the field, and we will handle those. We have an issue right now with the facility that has a lot of parking in the fire lane. And in the last probably week, we've issued about 15 parking citations to them. And hopefully we get them in order and we can keep a safe area for our crews to operate. In 2022, fireworks booths, it's not just completed by a code enforcement team. We did 144 booths in one day. Once those open June 28th at noon, we are out there ready to go. We can conduct all those inspections in that day so that they can operate safely. And then we've had 9 fireworks displays throughout the year, 6 of them around the 3rd and the 4th of July, and then 3 trickled throughout the year. And then we have an ongoing partnership with the Regional Fireworks Task Force, always trying to prepare for education and enforcement activities throughout the year. And lastly, again, weed abatement inspections, 597 inspections. A bulk of those happen right at the beginning. We do some proactive mailings out to the parcels each year. We do one in March, one in April, and then they get their first notice in May when fire season starts. And then we start those inspections June 1st. When we look at new construction, again, that is reviewing new building and tenant improvement plans, everything from, a small wall being installed to underground and constructing an entire building, apartment complexes, multi-story buildings. They also perform all the construction inspections that are associated with that. So last year alone, 3,845 plans were reviewed by about 4 inspector twos, 3 plan intake specialists, as well as a third-party plan review company. The last part of 2022, we actually stopped sending plans. We're keeping them in-house. We want to keep our inspectors busy and not work here and not have to pay a third-party company. So our goal is to maintain those here in-house. And then the construction inspections that we completed, 7,297. So our construction team has been very busy throughout the year. And training. So this is an important area and we're very proud of this area. So our training supervisor takes care of training our probationary inspectors and our plan intake specialists. They also help train and educate our suppression crews when that's needed. We do have the Captain's Academy coming up that we'll participate in and give them some educational avenues for them. And then continuing education. Angela, who is in charge of our training right now, makes sure that we have the classes that we need to be successful, keeping up our skills, current industry standards, preparing our staff for the future and for our succession planning. And we have so many partnerships throughout the region and meetings and different committees that we attend. Just to highlight a couple of them, we're part of the homeless encampment work groups. We're on the appeals board for Sacramento County. We take part in the Fire Safe Council for Rancho Murrieta and along the American River Parkway. We are part of all the 2x2 meetings, the project coordination meetings for the city of Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova. This is just a highlight of some of the meetings and partnerships we have. And I want to highlight some of our successes in 2023. Just the few months that we've been into 2023, our staff have assisted with the weather events that we've had for whatever this district needs. So if it's down power lines, down trees, we have staff that have stepped up and stood there ready to assist. We assisted the Community Relations Division with the smoke alarm blitz. We've seen a couple of you out there with that. Those were very successful. And then we completed the adoption of the 2022 California Fire Code in this for Sac County, Rancho Cordova, and Citrus Heights.
I wanted to add one thing on our smoke alarm blitzes that we've done. So 2 of those, obviously, as you're aware, were conducted after we had a fatal fire. The third one we did recently was actually a joint task force effort to do an inspection at a problem property and apartment complex that has many vacant units, problems with homeless, but there's still people living in the building. So on top of the inspection, we coordinated a proactive smoke detector blitz. I think they were able to install 32 smoke alarms throughout the complex that day, and we'll be going back and circling back on units that we weren't able to get into so that we don't have a problem. I think it's important for us to be taking a proactive stance on preventing things. That's why we used to be called fire prevention, so that we don't have those fatality fires. So yeah. A couple other successes. I just wanted to highlight some of the amazing work that our personnel are doing in the division. Inspector 2, Rebecca Lita, was recently elected as the president for the NorCal Fire Prevention Officers, which is a division of Cal Chiefs. So she will be serving in that role all year. She's also been appointed to the Office of the State Fire Marshal, General Advisory Committee for Fire Extinguishers. I also get to brag about Amy. Amy was recently appointed to the Office of the State Fire Marshal General Advisory Committee for Fireworks, which is really a great placement for us because we are leading the regional fireworks task force efforts this year. I'm proud to say that we've already had 3 meetings. We've had very positive feedback from at least our regional fire department agencies on how coordinated we are this year. Captain Wilborn has been very instrumental in bringing the PIO teams together. We had a meeting Monday with law enforcement. We're actively exploring what avenues we can take to utilize the social host ordinance. So really looking at all the things we can do to decrease the illegal fireworks and the fires that we have associated with that every year. Finally, one that we did not have on here, our supervising investigator, Chris Rogers, has actually applied to be a member of the fire marshal's team that's going to be working on the fire investigator passbook. So updating the training standards for fire investigators in the states. So Chris is out there doing great work too. And that's it. That's all we have for you, unless you have any questions for us. That's just a brief summary of all the things we do. And this is some of our team, and I think you might recognize some of these faces, Director Clark, because you were at the same place we were.
I know, I was reminded about that.
So I also wanted to extend an opportunity to the board members to come right along with some of our fire inspectors and see what they do every day as well. They really are forward facing, just like our operational crews, and they are out in the community every day interacting with people, probably on a better day than when our suppression crews are, because obviously they're having their worst day. We're trying to prevent their worst day. So.
What an excellent report. What a hard-working, talented group you are. Any other questions? Yes.
I have, well, first of all, congratulations on all these accomplishments.
Yeah,
Accomplishments. And again, great report.
Amazing.
If I say that at the end, you guys aren't here, so I want to say it now. Nice job. Quick question for Deputy Fire Marshal Nygren. I think it was slide 4 or 5. It was about inspections and re-inspections. And it looked like the re-inspection number was quite high. Is that because of non-compliance?
It is. Unfortunately, people don't always get it right the first time, and it'll take us multiple times to go out and assist them through the process. So it does take multiple times on many occasions to go out there. It is built into our fee schedule, so we do plan for that ahead of time. They get the initial inspection plus 1 re-inspection. And we let them know ahead of time, if you don't get this completed, there's going to be additional fees when we come out, because it takes a lot of time. So we do a lot of interaction with the customer. We're on the phone with them, helping them through the process to make sure they get it correct.
That's a heck of an educational program that with follow-ups here.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that, because that number jumped out at me. Thank you for that work.
Amazing. Any other questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay, thank you very much. That was a fun, enjoyable report. All right. Next, we have Sacramento Metro Firefighters Local 522 report. And that would be Captain Pete Botava, Local 522.
Thank you for the promotion.
Yeah, I know.
President Clark, board members, Chief Haverty. Let's see, since the last board meeting, 522's been on 2 calls with the Department of Healthcare Services. One was a labor-only call and one was with the Cal Chiefs Consultant Group. And happy to report that the non-participant payer list in regards to that PPGMT has been cut in over half over the last 3 months. And we're still continuing to make good progress on shrinking that list. We're making good progress on getting the Department of Healthcare Services and the Center of Medicare Services to see EMS as an entire package. And meaning that it's not just the transports, it's the first responder assessments, treatment, packaging, and then the transport. And by doing this, we could have a real impact on the positive effect for the reimbursement from the Center Medicare Services in the future for us. We had an e-board meeting and shop steward meetings, and we're getting all our shop stewards out into the different divisions and stations over the next 30 days to just connect and listen to our membership on any concerns they might have, needs, wants, and desires. We've been involved in many labor coalition meetings in both Sacramento and Placer counties. We're meeting with other local elected leaders at the county level, as well as where are we at here? With at the county level, as well as our cities, and we're looking for continued support on items like wall times, homelessness, exploring potential opportunities for increasing services in those areas and those communities. We're working with management to try to come to agreements on service delivery and deployment, recruitment, staffing goals for this next coming fiscal year. We see a need to provide additional help to members working throughout our district. We're hoping to have a complete comprehensive plan to put into action soon to report to you. We've got a real unique opportunity to make a real positive impact for our communities for years to come. And this initial service delivery piece that we're looking to move forward is really going to set the tone for this entire process. Let's see, Matt's down at the District 3 and 4 meetings tonight in Monterey, and he'll be in San Diego next week for District 1 and 2 meetings. Doing a lot of PPGMT. He'll come back and report on a lot of that information that comes out of those meetings. We have a unit meeting coming up on Friday for all of our members. Monday, I know it came up earlier with the AB 40. And on Monday, Matt will be Monday afternoon testifying at the Capitol on behalf of AB 40, which is the new legislation proposed by Assembly Member Rodriguez. So he's going to be at the Capitol Monday afternoon testifying on behalf of the AB 40, which is to hold the hospitals to the 20-minute wall time. So hopefully that will, moving forward with that report of standards of coverage, like you were concerned with the wall times, hopefully if this all works out, that's gonna go away in the future. So, and that's all I have. I'm contained.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions of Captain Bonella?
I have one. Do you know if Matt needs any of our support Monday at the Capitol?
I don't know at this point. I can check with them and have them report back to you.
Don't report back. If he needs help.
I can. I'll have him reach out to you if he does.
Very good.
For Monday.
Thank you.
You know the time?
I don't know the
Oh,
time. No.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
No more questions? Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we move on to committee and delegate reports. Executive committee does not have anything to report. Yeah, we don't have anything to report. Communication Center, JPA, DC Wagman. All right. And your next meeting is March 28, 2023 at 9 a.m., right? That's right. Okay, Finance and Audit Committee, Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance and Audit Committee has not met since we've last been together. Our next meeting is set for April 27 at 5:30 in this room. That's the end of report.
All right, thank you. Policy Committee, Director Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing new to report, but our next meeting is April 13th.
All right, 5:30 p.m.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Next, we go to board member questions and comments. I'll start with Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the staff for their excellent presentations this evening. Lots of good details. I very much look forward to the updated information on our insurance policies. I think there's a good opportunity for us to strengthen our position as far as our fiduciary responsibilities to the public. $1 million savings is a pretty substantial savings. I know that each of us go out and look for the best car insurance that we can find for the least amount of money. So I hope we have that same attitude when we look at that. I appreciate Chief Mitchell's discussion about our upcoming strategic meeting. Strategic planning event. I very much look forward to having some real deep conversations in those 2 days so that we can give our men and women some direction that will take us into the next 5 to 7 years. So thank you very much for those reports. And just want to say thank you to the men and women who are out there every day doing the work, especially those folks tonight that we heard about doing such good things in our Community Risk Reduction Division. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Gould. Director Wood.
I have no comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Director Sailors.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to first start off and thank everyone for the excellent reports, presentations tonight. They were
great,
very good, and very comprehensive. And I love to hear from the backstories from everyone that is out there doing the work. And next, I spent last week, the last 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Napa. No, not drinking wine. I was at the FDAC yearly conference, and our Chief Haverty teamed up with Chief White and gave a wonderful presentation. He gave us a very short presentation on where the division of the board versus the division of the chief and our responsibilities. But the presentation that he did at FDAC was, what was it, a 60-minute or a 90-minute?
90.
It flew by because it was so well done. Those two tag teamed the presentation, and the detail and the depth that you went into, I wish you could do that for this board, was extraordinary. And the other classes, I spent the 3 days there, and the learning, the amount of learning when I go to these conferences is just incredible, because FDAC is geared, it's all fire department and it's special districts. And so the changes in the laws that have happened this year, the special classes that are put on, like what our chief gave us there, it's incredible. And I wish I could see more other directors go to these conferences and stuff. They did give an update presentation on Friday afternoon on PPG-EMT. We get it. We're all going to have it. Even the districts and the fire departments that do not pay into it are going to get it now. And I'm sure the chief can enlighten us more on that. And so I also attended yesterday another day of learning put on by California Special Districts. It was their spring education day. And also Allie and Courtney and Mark Jones from Metro Fire attended yesterday's spring education day. And every class that I sat through yesterday was a wealth of knowledge. And I was so happy to sit with Allie and Mark and Courtney. These classes are educational, and they're full of new things that are new this year, the new laws that came out in January pertaining to special districts. And so once again, I'll just reiterate, I would love to see other directors attend these classes because they're free for us. And that's all I have for us. Thank you, and stay safe out there, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sailors. Director Weber.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Director Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that presentations were fantastic today. And I think it definitely builds towards the workshop that we have coming up. So I'm really looking forward to that and really diving into a lot of the information and some of the challenges that we have coming forward. So thank you for all the time you guys spent on it today. That's it.
Thank you, Director Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with all the reports from my fellow directors, and I thank you for the information. And I would just plagiarize if I said anything wrong.
I see, that's a tough act to follow there. So I have no comment, nothing more to add to it. Thank you very much, directors. Next, we're gonna recess into closed session. And we'll be out shortly. Come back into open session. Okay, we're back into open session. Council, would you report out, please?
Yes, thank you, Board President Clark. The board met in closed session first on item number 1 under Government Code 54957 with respect to the board clerk selection process. No reportable action was taken by the board. Number 2, the board met under the same code section with respect to the fire chief selection process. no reportable action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you, council. Having no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The next regular board meeting will be April 13th at 6 p.m. Have a good day.
I will see you all on the 27th.
Yes.